Hello! So welcome back. This is our third week on Black History Month. So let me introduce myself. My name is Toks and welcome to Wateredseed Talks. So our question for our network of women this week is, do you discuss Black History Month with your kids on a daily basis, or do you wait till Black History Month? I know most of you are going to say, oh no, we do it all the time. Well, the truth is I don't do it all the time, and I don't live it to Black History Month. I think sometimes it's based on circumstances, like my daughter could come up with a question, or my son could come up with a question, or perhaps it's the news that raises the conversation, or sometimes we could be watching a movie and then we start to discuss it. We start to discuss our ancestors, our history, not just slavery, because I think that somehow we seem to always think that Black history is slavery, or maybe it's not that we think, we feel like it's the worst thing that has happened to us, and yes it is, but there's so many other parts of Black triumph, there's so many other parts of Black history that has to do with more than slavery, just as a people who we are, from where we're from. I'm from Africa. Do my kids know about my African origin? Do they know about my grandfather? Do they know about, all of these conversations that binds them to who they really are? My granddad was an organ player, and he went to competitions all over the country back then in Nigeria. This is a history that we could share with our children, and it stopped at slavery. And I think also that our history also binds us with other races, because I know sometimes, yes, it separates us, I get that, but I also believe that it also binds us with other races, for us to come together, to learn from all the things that have happened to us, and to make sure that we don't get to that place again. So really the conversation that we would urge you to have with your kids this week is, how do you want to discuss your history on your daily basis? I mean, you don't have to do it on a daily basis, you know what I mean, but I think it's to integrate it into every part of our lives, so that our kids understand who they are. They understand why they have a certain streak for something, and that's okay. So I want you to really enjoy this video, because this will be the last week for my network of women to be answering this question. So I really hope that you enjoy it. Okay? All right. Bye.
You also asked me if I speak to my children about Black history, and the answer is yes, most of the time during the year, not specific to the month of October. And the reason why it happens during the year is because whatever comes up that assists me in educating my children on, where we come from as a race, and why we are where we are now, I try to really educate them and home in on those things. So for example, I had a TV episode of Doctor Who where Rosa Parks, they went back in time, and it was around the Civil War. Was it 1861 or something like that? But anyway, it was when the Civil War sort of kicked off in America, and Rosa Parks was very much featured in that episode. And my son asked me, so who's Rosa Parks? What's it all about? And what was she trying to achieve? And all those sort of things we spoke about. There's so many highlights over the years, which is why we don't just concentrate in October, although October does help us to talk about it more, because they'll come home with questions from school, or things they've seen on TV, because it's so much more relevant and so much more highlighted in October, and we will talk about those things then. So I hope that answers the questions, and thank you again for asking me and allowing me to contribute. Thanks again. Bye.
In terms of teaching my kids about Black history, my kids are quite young. The oldest is 3 years old. At the moment, what I talk to them about, or what we kind of learn, is about our family history, which is also Black history for me. My family history, my family background. I let them know that, look, you're Africans. We're based in Ireland, you're born in Ireland, but you're African. I tell, especially my eldest, who's 3, I tell her about my mom, who's a grandmother, how strong and powerful and successful she was, you know, the things that she taught me. And also one of the things I do with my baby girl is we do like reaffirmations, you know, we talk about, we say things like, oh, I'm beautiful, I'm the cutest, I love my skin. And I see that is actually having a good impact, a positive impact in how she sees herself. So, and that's the beginning of it. And obviously, as she continues to grow, we'll talk more about specific things in Black history. So.
I talk to my children about Black history in general. I try not to reserve it for 1 month because I think that Black excellence and Black stories and struggles and our achievements should always be celebrated. And so I'm constantly discussing this with my children, and I think it's important that we as parents do that because it allows them to see themselves as the future leaders of tomorrow who can do the great things that people like them have gone ahead and done. Thank you.
But the last question was about if I'm going to discuss Black History Month with my kids or Black History Month. Yes, anytime I see an opportunity to talk about Black people, whether it's to, you know, give someone awareness on their privilege or another fellow Black child that maybe doesn't see themselves as they should, definitely, like, not just Black History Month, I'm going to talk about Black people period all the time, because I just feel like we need to be more proud of ourselves and ourselves as people.
Have I started discussing Black history with my kids? No. And the reason I think is founded in the fact that I do not think that presently it is an issue where I am bringing them up in the location that is, because we're presently in Nigeria and there's different set of issues that they're dealing with. I also think that the narrative of Black history, like I said, is one of perspective and cannot be compartmentalized. This would mean that for me, the angles that I look at it from is that the history that is being taught in the schools today fits the bill. It's sufficient. So when they teach them about Jaja Vokobo or Queen Amina, they all epitomize the struggles against imperialism and what have you. So for me, you know, it's an evolving narrative, and eventually we will get to that as other aspects of the story when they do get there.
Last question is, do I discuss Black history with my children? No, I don't. But after Toks told me about it and we talked about Black history, when she said initially, I laughed it off and I was like, oh girl, like we all know we all know where we come from, slavery and all that, and of course we have a chance now today in the world and all that. She was like, oh no, you have to talk to your children, you have to make them understand, you have to let them know that it's not just the white people that are at the top, that blacks are at the top, we need to make them the ball. When I sat my daughter down and I asked her, does she know what Black history was? Of course she was aware, but I know they don't, we don't celebrate it in Australia, but maybe they've been taught in school about Black slavery and all that. So she was well informed. She talked about George Floyd, about that and all that. She talked about Barack Obama being an African and he was the president. So it was easier for me to explain it to her that, okay, so do you know why a month is set aside for black like for these Black people to be celebrated? So I had to break it down and explain to her. So I think it's a good idea what Wateredseed is doing, trying to make us impact our children with this knowledge so they will know that, okay, they can grow up to be whatever they want to be.
So in terms of discussing, what do we discuss during Black History Month with the children? This really is, it's not only for the month of October for those of us in the UK, it's an ongoing thing because it's a battle for their minds, it's a battle for their history, their heritage, it's a battle for them to stay true to who they are and to respect and honor and value who they are, not just as people, but as people of a certain heritage, to find pride and peace with it, actually. So what we discuss, yes, we discussed the theme of Black History Month. This month is this year is about the African and the vote, or the African American and the vote. So we really need to use our voices in that way to change things. But more than that, I think really for our children is to get them to understand the pride and the privilege, for me really, and the blessing that it is to be of their heritage. And if there's one thing that I think everything should stem from, it is that sense of racial pride in your race, pride in the fact that you're Black. Everybody else is entitled to it, and why shouldn't we? So really those are my thoughts, and I hope they have maybe added some value, they've sparked a bit of thought. And thank you again, Toks from Wateredseed, for this opportunity, and thank you for what you do, and thank you for letting your passion play out in the way that it's doing in the lives of the children. Thank you once again. It's Inda. Bye-bye.
Finally, do I discuss Black history with my children? Definitely, all the time. I think it's important for me to make a point to teach my children to be proud of themselves and their heritage, to go for anything they desire, as there's no limit at all. I continuously educate my children about Black history, and I strongly believe in sharing many role models of our time. It is my duty as an African mother to promote my African heritage and to teach my children and raise awareness. If not, who will? I encourage all mothers to do the same, and together we will see a brighter future for all. To end, I'd like to share a very powerful quote from a civil rights activist, a philanthropist, and intellectual, W.E.B. Du Bois. Children learn more from what you are than what you teach. Thank you.